I guess I'm going to be the one to do it. I say the Illini basketball season turns around tonight.
You are Locked On Illini, your daily podcast on the Illinois Fighting Illini. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome all to Game Day right here on Locked On Illini. Thank you so much for making us your first listen each and every day. My name is Verma. Do a search on all your favorite social medias for Locked On Illini. Send me a message, say something nice, say something not so nice, just keep it constructive. And I wanted to start off the show and say a huge thank you. I was not sure how that last segment on Monday's episode would go. And I knew it was something I wanted to get off my chest because it had been a couple days. And, you know, while it's unfortunate what happened, the situation with Andre Curbelo, I did think that there was such a linear story with it that I could kind of incorporate my own story. And, me talking about me wanting to hear from you guys, I did. You guys showed up in droves. I had dozens upon dozens of messages on DMs and private messages on, again, Facebook, Instagram, all of those of you guys just showing your support. And I just want to say that's why I love what I do now. That's why I continue to produce content each and every day. Half, of course, because I enjoy the Illini and I enjoy talking about them, but it's because of the relationships, the community that we just continue to build on the show, whether it's just in the chat, whether it's the messages that we send back and forth on the social medias, or even the Discord, by the way, link in the description, where we're just talking Illini all day, every day. So again, I just want to get that out of the way. The feedback from yesterday's episode was fantastic. I was uneasy talking about it, but I knew I needed to get it off my chest. And thank you. Speaking of getting things off my chest, the mood and the temperature around Illini Nation right now is at not an all-time low, obviously, but it's as low as it's been in a very, very long time. And that's no matter who I listen to. All my favorite content creators out there you're talking about how this team is broken, me included. I literally called that on the thumbnail of that game against the post-game thumbnail for the Duke basketball game. And so hand raised, I contributed to all that, but you know what? I've had about 48 hours to think about that game against Duke, think about this team. I've watched every press conference, including the one Brad Underwood did before this Iowa game. I saw them talk to Tommy Avicic, and I kind of also took a step back and just looked at the Big Ten. Okay, and I'm just going to say it, and maybe this is going to sound foolish, especially because I'm going to go live immediately after the Iowa Hawkeyes game tonight, immediately after the game. My everydayers know that, so make sure you are subscribed to this channel so you know as soon as I go live, which will be right after that final buzzer. But I think Illinois is going to blow the Iowa Hawkeyes out today. And we're going to get a scouting report by my good friend JR in the second segment. So if you want to learn a little bit more about that Iowa Hawkeyes basketball team, make sure you stay tuned for that. But I think right now, again, the mood seems to be at an all-time low with Illinois, but the fact that this game is at home, and more importantly, the team is getting healthy. And I'm not talking about Morez Johnson Jr. Again, I still don't know how serious Brad Underwood was about him coming back before the Big Ten tournament. But even putting Morez aside, this team in general is getting healthier. Tommy's not sick anymore. Sure, he's got that ankle issue that he's dealing with. Trey White looked kind of like old Trey White in that game against Duke on Saturday. And from what Brad Underwood said about Jake Davis is on the better side of that sickness now. Now he's basically recovering, and hopefully he's going to be close to 100% against Iowa on Tuesday night. We'll see. And I know it's hard talking about this and using this word all the time, but the talent is still on the Illinois basketball side. Right now, it's kind of a mental issue that I think that this team is dealing with. Sure, a lot of January, it did have to do with injuries. It did have to do with, health, sickness, all that kind of stuff. And I'm not making excuses. I'm just simply saying those were things that Illinois had to deal with. Could they have handled it better? Absolutely. But the Illinois team that is going to take the floor on Tuesday night is as healthy as it's been since the year turned 2025 this year. Again, outside Morez Johnson, for the most part, I think we're going to see the Illinois team that we had been expecting to see for the better part of this season. Iowa's not good. And Iowa's a basketball team that they're struggling without their best player. And their defense is still what you typically figure Iowa defenses look like. It's almost non-existent. Now, their offense is going to cause me some concern. And if Illinois continues to play defense the way they've been playing defense since January 1st, I believe, then this could be an absolute shootout, a game that you're going to want to hammer the over. Make sure you use FanDuel, friend of the program. But I think Illinois is due. And this may sound silly. It's just Brad keeps bringing up how this team shoots in practice. And obviously, this team is not as good at the real-time, game-time stuff as what Brad is seeing during practice. But at some point, just simple 41 years on this earth tells me that the law of averages has to eventually show up. And Illinois is not going to continue to shoot, 26% from three-point land? And let's be honest, Iowa is the one game that Illinois should win. And it's the game that most people already had, well, up until the Duke debacle, circled as an easy win. They're more concerned about Michigan and Purdue at the end of the year. And Iowa, I know, I talked about this in the post-game press conference. Iowa's got nothing to play for, right? Iowa at this point, at least when it comes to the Big Ten, what they want to do right now is make the Big Ten tournament. And that is something that they're going to go all out for. They don't want to be one of the last three teams in the conference and sit out the Big Ten tournament the first year that something like this happens. You know how embarrassing that is? No one is giving Iowa a shot. When I saw the line, I believe it's 11.5 Illinois. I don't know if I'm going to give any team 11.5 when it comes to Illinois at this point, just the way the psyche of this basketball team is. But, hold on, I'm correcting myself. I'm not going to go back. No, maybe it's just a hunch. Maybe it's just a feeling. But I think Illinois has the chance to turn around their season on Tuesday night. What I can absolutely see happening is Illinois finally starts hitting their three-pointers. Even if it's for one game against Iowa. If they go 12 for 32 from three-point land and finally have that comfortable win, I genuinely think that can do wonders for the psyche of this basketball team, especially because we have Michigan up after that and then Purdue as a finale for the season. I think now that the team is getting healthy and once they just see the ball go through the hoop, I do think that the confidence level of this team can kind of slowly return back to normal. Illinois plays Tuesday night, and then they don't play until Sunday, I believe. So it's going to be a lot. You're going to have 5-6 days of just kind of relaxing and practicing. Then practicing is one thing that this team has not done consistently since all the sick bug took control of that locker room. And so this team's going to be able to practice again. Tommy, again, I think Brad said he was only playing at 60-70% because of his ankle. Well, hopefully every single day that percentage goes up marginally. And I do think that a big reason for the fall off when it comes to the defensive side is the lack of practice, especially when you have a team of guys who are not used to playing with each other. The practice on the defensive side is just as important as it is on offense. And let's just say, hypothetically, Illinois does have a very comfortable victory on Tuesday night. Now, full disclosure, I'm recording this as Michigan is playing their game against Nebraska. So I don't know what the final score of that game is going to be. But I did watch Michigan go up against Michigan State and lose to their rivals at home, essentially giving the Spartans the leg up on winning the Big Ten Conference this year. Michigan's also a team who early in the season, I thought they'd contend for the Big Ten championship, and they are, but they're flawed. They're a team that relies on their two bigs in Golden and Wolf, but they're a team that just plays very sloppy, and they will give every opponent that they play the opportunity to win. It's up to the opponent whether they can snatch that victory and take it. But Michigan is not the typical type of, and this goes the same for the Michigan State Spartans. Both Michigan and Michigan State, despite them being 1-2 in the conference right now, I don't know if they would finish in the top 4 in the conference the last 4 or 5 years. They're good teams, not great teams, clearly flawed basketball teams. And I do think that losing at home to your rival and essentially giving up the opportunity to win the Big Ten Conference to your rival, that could have some kind of psyche change in Michigan. So I'm very curious to see what happens against Nebraska on Monday night. Again, as this game is being recorded, or this show is being recorded, but I do think that if Illinois can regain some of that confidence, that they do have an honest shot at also beating Michigan, even though the game is at Michigan. I saw Michigan State go in to Ann Arbor and win. And I do think that Illinois has an opportunity to do the same thing. And finally, the season finale will be against our good friends to the east, the Purdue Boilermakers. And the one team that is struggling arguably worse than Illinois right now, and I know maybe score differential wise will tell you something different, but Purdue's lost 4 in a row. I don't remember the last time Purdue has lost 4 in a row. And you know what? You know who Purdue's head coach is? Matt Painter. And there's no Boilermaker fans out there crying out for Matt Painter to be fired, like unfortunately the Underwood detractors are doing. But this Purdue team has got 2 potential All-Americans on it, but very little else. And this is going to be a topic I explore later on, maybe this week or maybe next week. It's in my notes to tackle. But we all fault Brad Underwood for replacing 10 guys and hammering the transfer portal very aggressively. And we're talking about how obviously that method doesn't work. And a lot of people were praising Matt Painter for going the complete opposite route and basically not taking in any transfers on their roster. But if you follow college basketball, if you are involved in any sort of discussions that is going on with the Duke fans and their basketball team, you see a lot of complaining saying, hey, this roster is just not good enough, that Matt should have tackled the transfer portal a little stronger. And so this is one of those games where, Illinois, Purdue, whether they want to admit this or not, has become a rivalry over the last couple of years. Routinely, they finished 1-2 in the Big Ten Conference. Obviously, it's not going to happen this year, but, both teams are struggling. And that's kind of my point. These teams are always kind of following a similar trajectory. Last year, they're 2 of the best teams in the Big Ten, arguably 2 of the 4 best teams in the country. And this year, both teams aren't quite living up to the expectations that they may have had coming into the year. And the fact that that game is at home, I do think that if Illinois can have a successful Tuesday night against Iowa and can go into Michigan and maybe squeeze out a victory there, we might be seeing this Illinois team kind of coming together finally at the end of the year, and then going in playing a Purdue team who is, again, on as much thin ice as this Illinois team is right now. Purdue just lost to their rivals, the Indiana Hoosiers, and they got blown out. I think it was a 28-3 run in the second half of their game yesterday. I mean, that's hard to recover over. And Purdue's trying to figure some stuff out themselves. If this was Zach Edey Purdue, then I'd automatically consider that one a loss. But they're not, and I don't. So let me know what you guys think. Is there a chance that Illinois can actually be 3-0 to finish out the season? I know that's not what the vibes have been lately. And so if they do, remember to credit Sonny Verma on Locked On Illini. And again, I know this is a very optimistic way of thinking, and I absolutely do need to see it on the basketball court. But I think it can happen. I think there's at least a 33% chance of us being able to win 3 in a row at the end of the year. And then who knows? Then the Big Ten tournament season starts, and then we have NCAA March Madness. At that point, this team, which is, again, in my opinion, very talented, has confidence back, and potentially Morez Johnson Jr. coming back. Who knows? I'd love to hear your guys' feedback. Let me know. March basketball is here, and there's no better way to get in on the action than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With PrizePicks, you pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. It's fast, easy, and keeps every game exciting. I love how I can make my picks in less than 60 seconds and stay engaged all game long. And when I win, my money hits my account in as little as 15 minutes. No waiting around. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. And welcome back. I know what you were all thinking on Monday's episode. Everyone's wondering, where's JR? JR's always on the Monday episodes of Locked on Illini. But I had a grander plan in place, and I want to bring JR on to discuss the Iowa Hawkeyes with me. JR, I'm telling you, the legions of fans that you have on this platform at this point, we're very disappointed not to see you on Monday, but thank you so much for joining me here on this Tuesday.
I appreciate the appreciation, and don't worry, I will bring my Iowa Hawkeyes expertise to this episode.
See, that's the wonderful thing about JR. If I can't find an actual expert like who's focused on the team, JR covers the entire Big Ten conference for the Big Ten Huddle, which we'll talk about at the end of this segment. And so I know that I always have someone trustworthy to give us kind of an overview of what this Iowa roster looks like. And JR, let me just give you the floor. Obviously now Freeman is gone for the rest of the season, and so Iowa's had to adjust a bit. And this is a team where, I feel like I'm saying this more often than not when it comes to Big Ten teams. There's a lot of talk about replacing a head coach, and I don't know if there's any place that it's being talked about more than at Iowa. Am I wrong?
No, I did a video on it talking just about Fran McCaffrey and kind of the pros and cons. I can see both sides, honestly. It's one of those interesting situations. The thing with it, though, is that the players are still playing very hard because they want Fran McCaffrey to stay. The problem is that, Owen Freeman is hurt, and you also have other guys who have such high usage rates toward the end of the season. We're seeing this. We saw it a little bit with Illinois. We've seen it with Ohio State. There's various other teams. Purdue is probably chief among them. This is happening with right now, where your players who just have such a high usage rate are getting so tired to the end of the season, and it's really preventing them from being the normal players they are. You look at Peyton Sandfort, Brock Harding to some extent, really pretty much anybody on that Iowa team that you can think of that has a high usage rate and scores a lot of points for them. They've been pretty much run to death at this point, and toward the end of the season, it's just like, can we crawl to the end?
Yeah. So, you said the words I didn't want to hear, and this is something I kind of talked about in my very brief overview of Iowa, and that's just a team that they haven't given up yet. Despite their season, or at least contending for a conference championship, obviously flew out the window almost as the season started, they still want to make the Big Ten tournament. And this is not a team that's quit on their head coach like maybe some other programs have. They're playing hard. They've lost their best player, but they're still extremely dangerous when it comes to the offensive end, and especially with the way Illinois' defense has tanked essentially since the beginning of February. This could be a scary matchup for Illinois.
Yeah, it could be. I still have faith in Illinois. I think that Iowa is one of those teams that, very good offense, but you look at Illinois' defensive numbers over the past 5 games, they're almost identical to the defensive numbers of Iowa over the past 5 games. Now, Iowa is about the same offensively, but you're running into similar issues with Iowa that Illinois is running into right now, where they aren't as efficient. They get caught up in doing things that they shouldn't do, whether that's not getting to the free throw line or shooting too many 3-pointers. This is a team that their free throw attempt rate over the past 5 games is like 22%. Not even that. That's just awful. For comparison, Illinois is 31%, and that's not really good either. It's not bad, but it's also not good. So it's kind of somewhere in that middle range there. But at the end of the day, this is an Iowa team that is beatable. Could they go off and kind of hit a barrage of threes and stuff like that? Sure, but they aren't getting the offensive rebounds to be able to get second chance, to be able to continue taking those threes. Peyton Sandfort is awesome, but like I kind of talked about, he's kind of nearing the end of the season where he is just so tired and so out of it. Probably the only thing you're looking at here, if you're an Illinois, I shouldn't say the only thing, probably the most concerning thing you're looking at here, if you're Illinois, is that Iowa could be looking at this game as like, this is our last opportunity, get one last big win and, save Fran McCaffrey or something like that. And you're looking at possibly they just go out there and leave it all on the floor. But I mean, I got to be honest, it looks like they've done that with Oregon. It looks like they've done that with a number of teams that they've faced lately. So I just don't know how much more they can keep doing it and doing it and doing it.
Yeah, and I kind of talked about that in the first segment here. When it comes to roster construction, Illinois at this point, outside Merez, is becoming pretty healthy. Tommy still has his ankle issues, and he's not rebounding at the level that we're used to. But Brad Underwood talked about in the pregame preview for this game, where he talked about Jake Davis is coming back to being fully healthy. I don't know if he's going to be fully healthy for this game, but at least he's getting closer and closer. And so this is going to be the first time that Illinois is going to be relatively healthy since January 1st. I mean, it's really been that long that we're going to get the roster that we have had for the better part, or at least at the end of 2024, playing on the court on Tuesday night. And the fact that this game at home, I think hopefully can help this team just kind of build some confidence. And I think that's what this team needs more than anything else. Make 2 of your first 5 3-pointers. Let the crowd really, the Orange Crush, let them do their job and get the players energized. The only path I see for Iowa winning on Tuesday night is those intangibles. If Illinois does come out flat, if they miss their first 5 or 6 3-pointers, then all of a sudden the crowd starts feeling uneasy. Oh, here we go again. And the players kind of feed off of that energy. Like, oh gosh, here we go again. We can't possibly lose this Iowa game. Do you see any other path for the Hawkeyes to win?
They're good at not turning the ball over, and Illinois is not very good at getting steals. And on top of that, when they do get turnovers, Illinois hasn't been getting out in the break the past 5 games. That's another issue that with them is they've not really been getting very many fast break points. So, I mean, there is the flip side to that of, well, they've not been getting very many fast break points and they're still scoring a good amount of points. But I mean, I also think they're just not efficient enough without trying to get out in the break. A team as athletic as Illinois is, they should be out in the break more, especially if you have 3-point shooters that can trail. Doing that, Brad Underwood wants his guys to shoot. Well, you need those guys trailing. You need guys getting to the basket and kicking it out to those guys. But I guess as far as I'm concerned, the turnovers are the biggest thing. With Illinois not forcing very many turnovers, Iowa does a very good job of taking care of the ball. It doesn't matter if it's at home, doesn't matter if it's away. Like this is one of the best teams at taking care of the ball in the nation. And so if you're Illinois, you're going to have to score in your half court sets. You're not going to get very many fast break points on this team. And unfortunately for Illinois, when they get into those half court sets, that's kind of when you get into like let's just chuck up a 3 or do something like that. And even against Duke, it wasn't necessarily fast breaks, but still moving down the court with speed and aggression is kind of when they did their best at getting down low. I question, are they going to be able to get down low in this game with Iowa being able to get back on defense like they do, and then also them not turning the ball over as much as many other teams in the nation?
The spread as of this recording was at 11.5. Illini by 11.5. Where do you think you side with that?
I think it's a little high, but also Illinois at home. I think the fans are going to be juiced. I think they're going to be into it. Even though I said Iowa does a better job of not turning the ball over away. Well, not a better job, about the same job away. This is an Iowa team that the defense is just 10 times worse away than it is at home. So it's not been a good defensive team. It's really not been good. It's been pretty bad, really bad on the road. So I like Illinois to win this one. I don't know if it'll get to 11.5. If it does, I like to see some kind of like second half pull away, and maybe Iowa's just so tired they can't stay in it. But I would go with about 11.5, maybe under. But I wouldn't be surprised if Illinois wins this one by 20 either.
One last question, JR. If Illinois loses to Iowa, and then you have Michigan, and you have Purdue to finish up the season, do you think there's any chance that Illinois is extremely nervous on Selection Sunday?
I mean, you look at the season they've had. I mean, Kent and I just looked at their schedule this past, on the Power Rankings episode. Illinois doesn't have a ton of bad losses. Like Northwestern was probably the bad loss, but then if you know context, like that was also when Northwestern was at their healthiest. So, their biggest problem is the point differential, and that's what's going to kill their KenPom and their net numbers and everything like that. Illinois is still pretty high up there in net. I have to think, even if they finish with 3 straight losses here, on top of however many, what are they on, a 4-game losing streak right now?
3.
Or 5?
It's currently 3.
Okay. So, I mean, if you end with a 6-game losing streak, like, that's obviously not what you want to do, but I mean, Illinois' got to get at least 1 win in the Big Ten tournament, right? So I think you're nervous just because you're as a fan, 6 in a row if that happens, but I tend to think Illinois, they should still be in. Should be. We'll see.
We will see. JR, let the folks know where they can find your work.
Yep, the Big Ten Huddle. Catch us over there. YouTube. There's a basketball channel. There's also a football channel. We're talking Illinois football still. We're talking Illinois basketball, obviously. Big Ten After Dark, almost every single day after Big Ten basketball games. We are going on live. Me and some kind of guests, sometimes just me. We'll go live. We'll talk about the games from that day. Not always going to be a super long episode, but still something to get that basketball itch for you.
Thanks, JR. See you next week.
Thanks. See ya.
And that's going to wrap it up for today's edition of Locked on Illini. I did want to read one message that I got in the middle of recording, and that's from Janet Davis from Instagram, who said, "Hi, Sonny. Meant to send you this a while ago. Found the podcast just before the Citrus Bowl. Love it. Haven't missed an episode. I love the way you present, like a friend talking to another friend about the team we both love. Thanks for all the hard work. Great work. ILLINI, Janet." Thank you. And again, if you find me on any of the social media, send me a message. Say hello. I love to have these discussions, and I love continuing to build this Locked on Illini community. Illinois, Iowa, Tuesday night. You'll find me right here as soon as that game is over. Hopefully, finally, for the first time in 3 games, we can actually celebrate a victory together. But if things don't work out, of course, a therapy session right here, Locked on Illini. Trust me, I charge you less than your therapist will. Until next time, ILL. Love you guys.